On three. 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay.
I thought you were going to start talking on three.
1, 2. Okay. Chúc mừng tất cả mọi người. Bạn đang nghe Badgered. Đây là Kevin và Bilal.
مرحبا اسمي بلال هذا رفيقي كيفن اليوم بدنا نحكي في كل شيء بعقلنا وإن شاء الله أنا بدي أسمع شو بده يقول كيفن.
Wow. Yeah.
That was painful.
That was very painful.
Oh my gosh.
I had planned in my head what I was going to say, and then I messed it up.
That was one of the worst experiences I've ever had on camera. I'm not being facetious. It's hard because it's like, there's nothing quite like being confronted with a stolen mother tongue coming from your mouth.
Just trauma is pouring out everywhere.
In theory, we'll only get better from there, right? Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Hi, Bilal.
Hi, Kevin. We are so back.
We are back.
We are so back.
Season 2, baby.
Season 2. Congratulations to me.
To us.
For getting us here.
Yeah.
I've successfully badgered you, or maybe you've successfully badgered me, into a whole season of Badgered. So to our listeners, welcome. Thank you so much for your loyalty over these last 3 years. And we're going to be hopefully regularly releasing episodes of this show over the course of this year. But we're going to get into all of that over the course of this episode. So our goal today is we're going to reintroduce ourselves, talk about what we're planning to do for season 2 of Badgered, and we have a focus, we have a theme for this episode, don't we, Kevin?
Yes.
And it probably gave it away in the intro, but what are we talking about today?
We are talking about languages. So something that both you and I, Bilal, that I know that we've been doing is, you know, on and off, kind of trying to just kind of practice our respective mother tongues, mother languages. And we're just going to be kind of going through, you know, how we kind of approach that and do a bit of fun and games. Well, more so fun and games for you guys, not painful for
It's just continued torture of both of us. Before we get into it and talking about languages, I do want to recommend that if people want to know how we planned out what we're going to do this season, what our goals are and all of that, they can look at some additional content from us, an episode of something called Pestered, which is supplemental content to the podcast that you're going to post on YouTube.
Yes.
Kevin will post on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure we'll link it in the show notes for people to check that out. Also, before we talk about languages, there's a couple of things I wanted to do, which is to reintroduce listeners to what Badgered is about. Essentially, Kevin, you and I, we're weird. Our brains are weird, and they fixate on strange things, and we get caught up in those thoughts and we have nowhere to put them but into each other's brains. And sometimes it's not enough to just text about them or send random screenshots of the things that we're doing. And we want an opportunity to sit down, and we think that other people would be interested in that. We're both artists, we make things, we share things, we're writers and performers and have recently gotten into other forms of art. So this show is essentially documenting that process and those conversations to share with other people who hopefully will be able to relate. Is that a kind of concise explanation of what we do?
Beautiful.
All right. We're starting off with a regular segment that we're introducing this season that we will be doing every episode, hopefully, which is Waffle Wednesday. You're the one that told me about this, so do you want to explain what Waffle Wednesday is again?
Oh, Lord. So originally, it was just an idea from some dude on TikTok as a way to keep in touch with friends.
Yep.
Or family that they might not have seen. And the idea is every Wednesday in a group chat, everyone sends a quick, 1 minute, 2 minute video about what's been going on in their lives since the last week or the last fortnight, however long they determine. And there's no pressure or pressure for it at all. You just kind of talk about what you've got going on in your life. You just waffle on for about a minute.
Kevin, I would love to hear you waffle on for a minute or two about what's going on in your life. I feel like we haven't caught up in a while. So tell me, what's going on in Kevin's world?
Okay, well, we'll do 3 quick things. One, which you know about. I've got a kitten.
You got a kitten?
I don't have a kitten, but I am helping to foster a kitten.
Are you really helping to foster?
I'm
You seem convinced of
I
this.
put my foot down. I'm
Okay.
not taking in any more strays. One is more than enough. I do have a kitten currently. It's very cute. It's very clingy.
Does a kitten have a name?
Yeah. Actually, this ties in really well to the
To languages?
So,
All right, tell me.
So the kitten is named Jer.
Yeah.
Jer.
Yeah.
And Jer in Vietnamese, it's a type of dessert. It's almost like a pudding. Actually, I made it for you once at kind of the get together.
Oh, dude, that was so nice.
It's similar, but not quite. So it's kind of like a pudding. Yeah. And the reason why Jer is named Jer is in Vietnamese. There's also a dessert called Jer Ba Mao, which is essentially translates to free colored pudding. And because
Three colored. Oh, because it's a calico cat. Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
But this is a name that you gave to a kitten that you're definitely not keeping. But that's the amount of thought that you put into the name.
Yeah. He says I'm the one that put the thought into it. You know.
So very clingy. How? Can I ask like where you got the kitten from? Did you
just off the streets? You know.
In Waffle Wednesday, am I supposed to interrupt with questions or?
Yeah, I think
okay.
It's nicer.
Or I can shut up and listen.
But live Waffle Wednesday, so I
Waffle
prefer
Wednesdays.
the
Beautiful
interjections.
So yeah, just off the street.
Just off the street.
Just nearby your place.
Yeah, or the building right next.
No mum nearby. No other kittens.
Not that we know of, but we did find another kitten that we think is its sibling.
Yeah.
And then that one's gone. We stole that one as well, but that's gone off to a friend who's gonna foster that one.
We managed to house that one. Oh, they're fostering
They're
it too.
fostering, not gonna keep it.
How old is the kitten?
We think about 3 months, because and we think it very sadly that it was dumped.
Yeah.
Because like it knows how to use the litter box.
Oh, so someone had that.
Yeah.
Oh man, did you find it at the end of last year or start of this year?
I think maybe just last week.
Yeah. I wonder if it's one of those things, like I think there's a huge uptick around the time of New Year where people or after Christmas, where people will buy gifts which are pets for people, and then they'll maybe not want them anymore, then dump them. And I feel like shelters talk about that quite often at the start of the year. There's a lot of unhoused animals. So you're a good human for taking that cat in, at least for a little bit.
Not on my own free will, let's just say that.
You said there's 3 things. So kitten is one.
I forgot the other 2 things. What was the other thing? So, and this kind of ties into what we are learning and teaching ourselves right now. Last episode, I talked about the land height, which is an extra test that I have to do as a teaching student to get qualified, which is basically a literacy and numeracy test. And because what they do is they have the test in windows. So like throughout the year, there'll be 4 windows that you can kind of...
And you can pick one to do the test in.
Or they open up one window at a time throughout the year, and then you sign up. So the first window of the year just opened, and I've just signed up for it. 13th of February is going to be my numeracy test.
Oh my God, it's soon.
So I'm starting to...
Oh, I'm feeling anxious for you.
Oh God, I should... Luckily, there is this... let's complain about the government, all right?
Please, that's one of my favorite things to do.
So essentially, I think it is a good idea that all teachers should meet minimum standards for literacy and numeracy.
I agree.
I think that's a given.
I don't necessarily, I know I'm interrupting, but I don't necessarily agree that the government should be the ones who decide what that minimum standard is. But
it's like, okay, I'm paying however amount of money to bloody do my degree. Why isn't it being, one, conducted through the university? Why am I going to the city at some forsaken hour to do the test? 2, 3, why am I paying $96 every time I do the test?
You have to pay for the test. That burnt me as well.
That's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's $96 for each test. So $96 for the numeracy test, $96 for the literacy test. That's insane.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the same in every state, but that's definitely New South Wales. Yeah. It was around that for me too.
One positive though is that previously you had 3 attempts to do it.
Yeah.
On your 4th attempt, you needed to go through your university to kind of intercede on your behalf to argue that this student should be given another chance. They've removed the limit. So you can do, it's unlimited now. You can do the test as many times as you want until you pass, which I don't know how I feel about that.
It's good for you. It's really bad for, like, it's a bad look for the government, right? If they're the ones who are deciding the minimum standard, essentially what they've said is as long as you can pay a lot of money, eventually we'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Because the test, you will get it eventually. No matter how poor your literacy and numeracy skills are, to a degree, you will be able to pass it if you pay enough money to do it. So it's advantaging people who can do that and who can afford to wait out and not start working as a teacher. They would just be like, oh, whatever, I'll just live off of like, you know, generational wealth or whatever like privileges that I have. And then eventually I'll be able to do this. But then the people who really do need to get it in, if money is a barrier, there's not a lot of access to them.
Exactly.
That's really frustrating.
Yeah.
So numeracy on February.
Yeah. Literacy I'm less concerned about, so I'm just going to do that whenever.
Yeah. You don't want to just get it out of the way?
I want to get literacy out of the
numeracy out of the way?
Numeracy out of the way, sorry. So I can't tell the difference. I'm going to fail.
That's going to be the first question. They're going to be like, which
is this the literacy test or
get
the
out of here.
numeracy test?
Give us another $96. Do you think you'll pass it on the first go?
So,
like, what do you feel?
As of right now, no. I was a lot more confident before, because what I did
What
was
changed?
before I started my course last year. Right, there's a period of time before I started. I knew that the land type was something I was going to have to do. So I was kind of prepping myself for that. And in the leading up to it and doing the practice tests and stuff, I was doing really good. Then uni started, and then I just forgot. I just didn't do any practice of that whatsoever. And then when I did the practice test again after my semester I finished, it was not good.
There's a practice test, so it gives you a mark, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable saying like what
Honestly,
you were getting before?
I can't remember. I think it was a pass, but like with the land type as well, the pass score changes every time. Because they have this thing where to pass you need to be in the top 30% of the Australian population, and that then depends on the type of questions they put in.
Okay, because it's not always the same questions.
No, so it's not like simple.
Do they still, for the numeracy, do they still have calculator and non-calculator section?
Yeah.
So you have to do two. Well, it's on the same day.
Yeah, well, it's in the same session. So
So like there's a section of it where they get rid of calculators.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe we'll record something about this next time.
Like a supplemental me just like practicing and freaking out.
Maybe just to make you feel better, what we should do is the next time we meet up, we both do a practice. And I do no prep for it. And you do whatever prep you were going to do or not. And then we just do it together. And then I'm currently a teacher. So I'm qualified according to the Australian government to go into any classroom and teach. So we'll get to see who, like an early career teacher who hasn't passed their course yet versus someone who's actually in it. And if I fail, then that'll make you feel good about yourself. And other people feel good about themselves. And me really bad about myself.
I think there were some our audience members, some of them said
we did get a couple
of
of really kind messages from people on DMs on Instagram. One in particular who recently graduated the teaching course, and we were talking about how horrible the land type test is and all of that.
And if anyone else is doing the land type, we can all freak out together.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the kind of stuff that's easy to pull out, and it's a nice clip to just show people. That's if they're only interested in teaching content, like that's something that we can share with people. All right. What was your last thing? You had 3 things more for Wednesday.
2 is enough.
Okay. My main thing, if I'm catching you up on stuff that's changed with me recently, is I've gotten back into drawing and illustrating. And really specifically, I started my drawing basics course again, which is something that I enrolled into. I think I told you about it. Maybe at this point, more than a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago. It's through this really fantastic artist teacher in the States. His name is Stan Proko, and he started this online learning platform called Proko. And it's probably one of arguably the most popular ways to get into drawing if you're not enrolling into like an art course or college or university or whatever. And he created this platform, and he hires a whole bunch of different teachers to run these courses for like, here's if you want to learn how to draw portraits, here if you want to like draw comic books, and they partner with like Marvel and those sorts of things. But he started his own course on that platform that's called Drawing Basics. So he's pretty much, if you don't know anything about drawing, you're a complete beginner, which I feel I still am, or at least when I first signed up, I very much felt that way. And he's like, this is the course for you. And he's still in the process of releasing it. So he, Drawing Basics started whenever it started, and I enrolled before he even started releasing episodes of it. So it's like an online thing where he does videos and all this stuff. And I was doing it as he was releasing it. So on the Proko site, this is not sponsored by the way, I wish, oh my God, the guy's amazing. I'm just doing it because this is how I'm learning to draw. And so I'm spending most of my free time doing. And he would do a thing where he does like a lecture. So here's how you do good line quality in drawing. here's a project I'm going to give you. So it's a separate video. This is how I want you to try to draw this piece of fruit. And here are some things to keep in mind. And then what you can do is you try the lessons and then you submit your work to the site. So you submit your work to the site, and then the next video he does is he takes all of it, looks at what everyone has submitted, and then he gives feedback based on what most people got wrong. And then you watch that and you use that to correct your stuff. So I was doing it the first few lessons as he was going, and I was keeping up with him as he was releasing stuff. And I even got to a point where I did one of the projects, posted it online, and in his critique video, he didn't like choose my one, but you could see it like his. I was like, oh, so close. But he chose most of them around ones that are like similar to the mistakes I made, and I found it really cool to be doing it at the same time.
Yeah.
Then invariably I dropped off, like maybe a couple of months into doing it.
Yeah.
And I made some good progress, but like I stopped, and then he just kept releasing projects, and people kept submitting stuff, and I got so far behind. But this year I really want to try to do it. So I'm back into it. I'm back on the first project ever, and I've been spending most of my time that I can have the brain space to. Mostly early in the morning, I'll like do one of the actual lessons, and then throughout the day, as much as I can, I'll draw. And this is a bit of a show and tell. So I've mostly, like, a lot of the advice is to just draw stuff around you and around the house.
Yeah.
And there's always like so many kids in my family. So I've just been drawing like kids' toys around. So this is my page from a few days ago. This is this weird kind of like, and we can pull up photos of this, I don't really mind. Like this ball thing that you kind of like spin.
It looks so alien. I don't know what, but the top item reminds you of something like from Rick and Morty.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a spaceship, which is the reason why I wanted to draw it. This is, can you tell what that is?
An elephant?
Yeah, it's an elephant plushie. Yeah. And then over on this side, we've got this like sideways view of this machine that you put a ball into and it spins in the mouth, so you can see the eyes and stuff. And this will be familiar to you. I drew this. It's just kind of sitting on our TV unit. That is a 3D printed cow that you gave as a gift.
Yeah.
So like that is what I've been spending most of my time doing.
It's cool. If you want, you can like take photos and maybe I'll put it on the screen or something.
Yeah, I'll send them through to you. That's basically the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just trying to be an adult and like using the time that I have in the school holidays to actually spend time doing things that I enjoy before kind of work starts up again.
Yeah, getting back into it.
Yeah.
Do you know how much more time you've got to rest until you're jumping back
Well,
in?
I'm casual teaching now, so I kind of school goes back around start of February, so end of Jan, start of February, and I can work as much or as little, alhamdulillah, as I want. So I can take up as many days as I want or as little. So I'm not locked into a specific contract, which means that you have less money over the break. But it also means that I'm not kind of committed and tied down to one thing. So I can spend more time.
It's kind of good for you. Like you're always doing so many different things, anyways.
Oh man, I'm trying not to. Like I'm trying to just have. I'm like I just want to focus on guest house publishing this year and writing. And then I'm like, oh, but the Bankstown Poetry Slam also exists. And we have our Grand Slam in February.
Oh, God.
Which we haven't made big announcements about yet. But that's like a huge thing that I've got to do. And work is starting.
And you're here right now.
Which is why we're just like, which is why you're like, oh, when is school starting? I'm like, school is starting when I'm ready to go back to school. And when I run out of money and need to work again, that's when I'm going back to school.
Capitalism, baby.
I like Waffle Wednesdays.
You like it?
I think next time we should eat something during it. Ooh. I hate when people eat on podcasts. Maybe we can try to mute ourselves while we chew.
Sure.
But like, I think it adds to the kind of catch-up ethnic vibe.
We need some tea as well.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Oh, we got. The next thing that we were going to do on our show notes is another regular segment, which is the last thing that we made. And then we're going to jump into languages.
Stuff,
So because we're artists and I want to keep ourselves accountable, I want to know from you, or I can go first if you'd like, what's the last artwork you made? And it has to be something you shared with at least one other person. So it can be a big audience, can be online, could be in person, could be just someone in your family, a friend, whatever. The last thing you made and shared with someone. Doesn't have to be writing.
Doesn't have to be writing. I think the last thing I made would have been the supplemental content, the climbing video.
Yeah.
That I made for our podcast.
What form would you say that is?
Film, cinema, video.
You're an auteur. So I'm not saying this at all to kind of minimize it. It's only because I'm ignorant and haven't done a lot of video stuff. What is the artistic element of like directing and filming stuff? Like, how do you think about that in comparison to when you're doing writing stuff?
Yeah. So I think for me, at least the way I approach creating videos, or particularly the type of video that I made for the podcast, is like even before I'm shooting, like in my head, I'm like, okay, what are all of the different shots that I will need? So I know I'm going to need some sort of introduction video, and also throughout it, I'm thinking of, is there a storyline I can weave as well? So with the video, for example, instead of just me recording myself climbing during my climbing session or whatever, it's okay. Instead of just that, it's me. I'm going to be competing. Am I going to win? Am I going to lose? Am I going to make it to the finals? Will I compete in the finals? Yes or no? And then kind of using that as a thread.
Such an interesting kind of storytelling aspect of it that I wouldn't have considered, but actually is the thing that made me so interested in it when I was watching it. Because it felt like a movie. Like you do the whole thing where you go, here's my goal. And then especially when you had that point where you're like stepped away and you had to make a decision, not to spoil stuff. And there should be a link in the show notes to watch it if you haven't already. It's really, really good. But it feels like you're following this kind of hero character through a journey and like the struggles and the ease and the successes. And I think like you even have, I don't know if you did it on purpose when you were filming, you kind of had your like mentor guide character, but you did it as a joke. I don't know who the person is, but you went up to him, it's like, are you going to help me? And then he was like, yeah, you know, because you're washed up. Like it was such a good way to set the tone. So I agree with you. I think it was like really strong storytelling.
Yeah.
My last thing that I made is also podcast related, completely different. But it was the announcement that we reached our target for the first episode to make season 2.
Yeah.
It was the cartoon character Badger that I drew. So it was, I mean, it's on our Instagram. Yeah. So it's this bloke. And I had been working on him before we did this announcement. I was going to use it for something else.
Yeah.
I was going to create physical pamphlets of like him and a QR code for people to listen. I was going to randomly just start handing out flyers for people to, because I was getting desperate because we weren't going to reach our listener count. But when we hit it, I realized I had this picture and nothing to do with him. So I used it as the announcement that Badgered is coming soon, posted on Instagram and did the 154 plays for season 1, and it's out in the world now.
Something about the combination of his eyes and his mouth that makes it, I don't know if it's off-putting, if it's like creepy, or if it's just...
I find him really creepy. I like forced myself to post it because part of learning art is sharing art, whatever the form is. And I posted on Instagram. I forgot the name, but I credited the artist that I was inspired by in at least the composition of it, because I find characterization really hard. That's another thing with drawing. Like you got no idea how to take something and then simplify it into a cartoon character. It's a lot harder, at least, than I thought it would be. So I'm inspired by another artist, but you know, their art is not creepy and doesn't look like this. I kind of changed it and I don't know what I turned it into. But weirdly, it's how I feel, which is weird because I write a lot and I feel like I can explain how I feel in my writing, even when being experimental, but I've never been able to draw something and be like, this is a vibe. But this is one of the ones where I'm sure in a few years I'm going to look back on it and see all the mistakes. But right now, this is what it felt like when I managed to get us.
Yeah.
And I keep taking credit for it, even though you did so much to make it happen. But when we managed to get to 154 players, this is what it felt like so smug. Yeah. So that's
Does he have a name?
Weird. No.
Should we do like, here's a marketing content. We should get our audience members to name him.
Name him. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can do a poll on socials.
Yeah.
And then people can submit names and then we'll vote or something. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Cool. You're natural at this. It's great. I think that is, for now, our last regular segment. We'll have one more at the end of the episode, but for now we're going to get into the meat of what this episode is about, which is languages.
Yes.
And on our notes, we're kind of talking about our approaches to learning.
Maybe before we jump into that,
please.
Because I know it's something that you and I have both done. Actually, I don't think it's something that we really talked about much with each other. It's something like sometimes back when we were working with each other, I noticed that sometimes you were on Duolingo, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe before we jump into our approaches, maybe like a quick rundown of why
Yeah.
Like, why did you decide to, jump on your Duolingo or whatever to kind of...
I think the why is a good intro, and I'm hoping that people who are listening can be able to relate to this because most of our audience is English speaking, and majority of them are in Australia, although we have some international listeners, and I think a lot of them are children of diaspora. And whenever we talk about languages and reacquiring languages and mother tongues, I always think about that. But I also think another good introduction is to maybe start off by talking about what levels we're at, because it kind of gives context to why we want to improve. So I'll start with me, because I know sometimes it's hard to talk about, but majority of the time I speak English, and I can understand Arabic really well, and I can read Arabic, and I can speak Arabic, but my spoken Arabic is poor. Like, it's conversational, can get me by in most scenarios, but it's very obvious. I mean, anyone who can speak Arabic heard my intro. It's not great, especially be kind to me. I was nervous. I can usually speak a little bit better than that, but that's the reality. People can tell that I don't speak it as a native language. But at home growing up, my family spoke Arabic to me and I responded in English and Arabic. But majority of the time I could lean on English when I needed to. So that's my level. And the reason I want to improve is kind of twofold. The first is in terms of religion and being a Muslim, being able to understand Arabic, to speak Arabic, and to read Arabic allows you access to the central tenets of our religion. We have the Quran, which is written in Arabic, and there are translations of it, but you lose a lot of meaning. In fact, you probably lose most of the meaning in the stories and in the things in the Quran. So in a hadith, stories about our religion and the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran. So to not have an ability to speak and understand the language fluently means that there's a huge part of my identity that's locked off to me. And the other one is maybe just trying to exist in opposition to this white colonial so-called Australia. Like I feel in a lot of ways, this country obviously gave opportunities to my family, but it stole a lot from me. And one of the things it took from me, and arguably Australia isn't the only country that took this from me. I mean, we have that connection of French colonialism in Vietnam and Lebanon, but also kind of the huge acts of violence committed against Lebanon by colonial entities that we can get into, and Israel being one of them. They also took my language from me, and it's a part of my identity. So it's a way to kind of reclaim. And my final thing is, it's kind of just embarrassing because my name is Bilal and I am Lebanese and I am a Muslim, and I interact with people, especially from an older generation, who majority of them speak Arabic to me and expect me to speak Arabic back to them. And I can, but it's like almost a marker that you're losing your cultural identity if you can't. So I think there's a lot of really messy stuff about it, but that's the kind of main points that I wanted to hit.
Yeah.
What about you? What's like level, and then why you wanted it?
I mean, honestly, I think we're very similar. I think, to be fair though, I think it is something that is shared by, I think, most people who are first or second generation born with, refugee parents, ethnic parents, or whatever. So I'm very much in a similar boat as you, but probably worse, if anything, because I can't read or write Vietnamese.
I mean, to be clear, my reading and writing ability is primary school level. Like it's maybe Year 5 and 6.
Yeah. Okay. I think mine's like probably preschool level.
Yeah, fair enough.
If that's the case, where I'm in a very similar boat as you, where kind of because I think everyone would have a similar experience that is with ethnic parents, where from as a baby to maybe until you reach primary school, you're pretty much just taking in that kind of first language. It's only when you start school that you start beginning to lose it. So kind of growing up then, similar as you, if anything, my mum was much was able to kind of speak English quite comfortably enough. So a lot of our conversation was in English, or even kind of stuff that was spoken in Vietnamese was always extremely kind of like basic stuff, right? Go wash the dishes, go take out the rubbish, whatever. It was never much kind of deeper than that. And then in terms of why, again, very similar reasons to you. I think the biggest one is what you said is just kind of embarrassing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then because then you go into this whole deeper question of what does it mean to be a Lebanese person? What does it mean to be a Vietnamese person? Is it to have parents to have parents that are Lebanese or Vietnamese? Is it be able to speak the language? Is it like what is it? And I think language is one of the more tangible things that you can kind of hold onto, I guess.
And it gives you access to a lot of different parts of that identity. That it's a part of your identity, but to be able to speak the language gives you access to stories and culture. So you're saying what makes you Vietnamese or what makes me Lebanese? It's knowledge.
Yeah.
But how do we get the knowledge of those things? Even as simple as having like an elder in our community to tell us a story. To be able to access that knowledge, we need language. And that's a part of our culture, that's our birthright, but it's not something we can access if we can't understand.
Yeah.
And you even explained it when you said you had, simple rudimentary phrases or words that you would have gotten, like go get milk or go to the store. But there was no like sit down and here's how to discuss the concept of hope in Vietnamese or how to talk about existential crisis or crises in Arabic. Like that is stuff that we didn't even know how to say in English as kids. So we learn it later because it's what we're instructed in. It's how we kind of learn things for ourselves.
Yeah.
But by the time we've learned that in English, I didn't have like an Arabic thing going at the same time, like a thread to learn the same.
It's like you don't have these kind of parallel experiences going on.
By the time I could ask the question of like, what's my place in the universe, it was already too late to have grown up learning that in Arabic. So I absolutely relate to it. Which is why I kind of like the concept that you wanted to talk about today, which is making it fun, talking about games, and forcing ourselves to do something like intro the podcast in our mother tongue.
As painful as it is.
Which is, I'm already like trying to think of ways that we can cut it out, but we have to share it because it's, a good first step. And hopefully it makes other people who see other people in their community who do speak it well. Because I'm sure you have this, right? Like you've got other people who can speak Vietnamese who are your age or younger. And you're like maybe envious.
Yeah.
And you think that everyone else is like that. No one is as bad as you. But you all know now, based on having watched us do it, not only is someone as bad as you, they're worse. So you're okay.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about kind of our approaches to kind of learning?
Yeah, maybe you go first on this one.
So for me, let me bring up my notes here because at least during the break, it is something that I've been putting kind of more time into now that I had a bit more time. So I kind of have 3 kind of methods to this approach, and something that I kind of just picked up, just watching YouTube videos to see, one, what's the best way to do it, but also what's the most easiest way to do it without having to put in too much effort. So I got 3 methods. The first
you're min-maxing the learning of language.
Pretty much. So the first one is, maybe a step before it, and I'll quickly talk about kind of one. Maybe can we do easiest, hardest thing about learning the language? Because this then kind of ties into
and then you want to talk about your approaches?
So I'll do my kind of easiest, hardest. Easiest thing, and it might be similar to you, is that because, and this is different to someone having to learn the language from scratch or from the first time, is that as people who took in the language when we're very young, built into us is like a inherent understanding of like certain grammar or syntax that we don't have to worry about learning. It's kind of just, so I think that's, for me, that's the kind of easiest thing, not having to worry about learning about syntax or grammar, or when I'm doing kind of, some comprehension questions, I can kind of do process of elimination because I know what the syntax or grammar is supposed to be. Like there's something about a certain answer that sounds just right. You can just go through it.
A lot of grammar is intuitive.
The hardest thing, I think that's kind of specific to Vietnamese, is that it is a tonal language, right? So that you can have a word that is spelt the same, but because it has different tones, it can mean 3 different things. So for example, the one I always like to go to is the word for friend, table, and selling, right?
Yeah.
They're all spelt the same, but they're pronounced differently. Wow. So this table is gay bang, right? You, my friend, is you are my bang. Yeah. And if I want to sell something, I will bang ganay.
Okay.
So same word, same spelling, I'm pretty sure, but all pronounced differently. And that's the hardest thing when I'm doing kind of my exercises is like, wait, isn't this the word for something else? So yeah, that would be my.
Does it make you think about how but English is the same?
Yeah, but I think with Vietnamese, it's like to a such higher
Do you know why it's like that? Like, is there some kind of historical significance or cultural significance? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm just curious.
No clue.
Yeah, but
If anyone else knows.
Yeah, I mean, write in, comment, tell us. But the fact of the matter is that it's the case.
Yeah.
So it's how it's pronounced.
Yeah. So in I don't know what it's called. I think there's a specific word for it, but there will be like certain symbols that will show how. So the tones. There's I think 6 different tones, right? There's like a neutral tone.
Yeah.
There's a rising tone.
Yeah.
There's a lowering tone. There's a question tone.
Wow.
And then there's like a heavy.
And they're written.
They're written. Yeah.
So you use the rising tone or the questioning tone when you were asking to sell something, for example.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. And that would be so.
I think friend would be like a lowering.
Arabic is similar because we have harakat, which will tell you when to rise and fall or pause on letters, but it changes. Oh, I guess it changes the meaning as well. But I don't know. Like, we don't necessarily have a questioning tone, but it's similar in that there's like the word written, and then there's the the harakat that show you how you need to pronounce it.
Yeah.
But I had a question about Vietnamese. Sometimes those symbols, are they not there? Or are they always there?
I think they're always there.
In Arabic, I'm skipping ahead, I'll talk about it later. In Arabic, sometimes they're not there. And that's, I'll get to it.
That's good.
Yeah.
We can jump into like, hardest, easiest things.
Easiest thing for me is like access. Think about in the time that we live in human history, we can do an online course for anything. I could, not necessarily just Arabic, I could learn any language.
Yeah.
As long as I was able to practice it.
Yeah.
So I think the easiest thing is if I wanted to and was focused enough and had been able to find a resource for it, I could just sit down with any device and learn a language.
Yeah.
And not only that, I could connect with people all around the world and practice using that language with them. And I think at no point in human history have we been able to do that to the extent that we can do it now. And Duolingo is an example of that. But it's more than that. Just the access to resources, I think, is the easiest. But the 2 things I find hardest is, finding opportunities to practice it.
Yeah.
And practice it comfortably and well and consistently. I won't shout out who it is because they didn't give me permission to tell this story. But I mean, if they're listening, you know who you are. I have a friend who is trying to learn a new language, and what they do is they'll regularly meet up with friends who speak the language better than them and have a brunch with them and talk only in that language with them, which I think is very, very cool.
That's something I'd really love to do.
Yeah.
For me, it would be like, because, and I think another benefit for both of us is that, I live in Bankstown, you live in Parramatta, you live in Western Sydney, is that on some level, it is very easy for us to find our communities that kind of speak the language,
here in
right?
Bankstown right now where we are, we both live in our communities.
Yeah.
There's a huge Vietnamese population here and a Leb population.
And the thing is, if we got over our, our shame, we could easily go up to a random stranger
and start a conversation.
Just start a conversation if we wanted to, I think that's something I want to do, but like the fear of it just kind of prevents me
But I guess
from
the
doing
thing that makes it hard for me is, like, I will have conversations with people in Arabic, but it's, like we said before, it's really rudimentary. So it's easier now, but there was a time where I would force myself to go to Arab stores and shop and only talk in Arabic, which I do now and can now do comfortably, but I'm never going to learn the existential stuff. I'm going to know, like, the names for fruits, the names for, like, money, like, all that stuff is simple.
Yeah.
But it's not really what I want.
Exactly. And very similar way, if I go into a restaurant, I can easily order something because it's just rote learning, right?
Yeah.
But but the actual conversational stuff, like forcing yourself to find a random person sitting on a bench and saying, "Hey, can I practice?" with you or something like that.
Or that you live a kind of life around a community where those interactions are incidental and not so weird.
Yeah.
But that's part of what, this country takes away from us.
Yeah.
But that we try to reclaim. And my other one that I mentioned before is the harakat. In that in Arabic, when you are literate in reading Arabic and writing Arabic, you do it without the symbols. You just know what the words are.
Yeah.
So if you have a word written, I can read Arabic, not easily, but I can read it well enough.
Yeah.
Especially if you give me the Quran. I can read any of the chapters in it. Alhamdulillah that I have the opportunity and knowledge to do that. But then if you give me a newspaper that's written in Arabic, I can't read it. For the most part, I can't read it because all the symbols aren't there. All the ways to pronounce it, if you go up or down or pause on letters, the harakat, mostly that's like a primary school person would read that way because that's when you're learning what words are. So the concept of like sight words in English, in Arabic, you should just know the word and contextually be like, well, that means fruit or that means bottle.
Yeah.
And you don't have to like always have your hand held for how to pronounce it phonetically. But I don't know how to do that. So no matter how much I practice reading with harakat, at least how much I've been able to practice so far, it doesn't translate into being able to read it without. Because it's memory and it's repetition, which I don't read that much Arabic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does it have anything to do with how, and this is like just like random stuff I've come across, is that with Arabic, I've heard that with like in news, whether it's like newscasters or reading newspapers, that it's written in a different dialect of Arabic. Like
Yeah,
in
I mean
MSA.
that's the other thing we haven't gotten into is that there's like slang and colloquial Arabic, which is what I speak and what my family speaks, and then there's Fusha, which is formal Arabic.
Yeah.
And if you're watching any movie or TV show or news report, it's spoken in formal Arabic.
Yeah.
And formal Arabic is used more often in countries that aren't Lebanon.
Yeah.
So like Egypt, for example, or in Palestine, in Palestine, and you listen to them speak and it sounds so refined and beautiful because the language of Arabic is, and then they'll hear me speaking like, oh, this is someone who's Lebanese. And I'm putting that kind of, that discrimination on, like I don't know how much of that is real, it's how I feel, but yeah, there is, sometimes someone will speak and I'm like, some of the words are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And other times someone will say something and I'm like, that's not how I was learned to say that.
Yeah.
That's not how I was taught to say that
I mean,
word.
that's extremely similar to Vietnamese as well.
Really?
Where there's two main, I don't know if they're accents or dialects, but you have Northern Vietnamese and you have Southern Vietnamese. And then there's like kind of in-betweens as well. Like there's like kind of like a middle region Vietnamese as well. I want to get into it. But the two main ones are North and South. And like for me, I can barely understand. Like when I was young, I had a neighbor who was from the North.
Yeah.
And whenever she would speak to me, I was just like, but I had no idea what she was saying because it's like, it was like, it's the equivalent of just like of accent being really heavy.
Yeah.
And different words being used as well.
So yeah, it's not just the accent, it's like the word choice.
Yeah, there's some
different.
words that are different as well.
Yeah, I never knew that about Vietnamese. That's pretty much what you described is exactly my experience with Arabic. So how are you teaching yourself? What are you doing?
So my approach, I'll break it up into three kind of different sections where it's vocabulary, immersion, and comprehension.
Yep.
So for vocab, I'm using kind of Duolingo.
Yep.
Just because I think it's the easiest for me to kind of take in new words. The annoying thing with that is that a lot of the courses online that teach Vietnamese are in a northern accent. So there's been times when I'm doing the exercises where I have no idea what they're saying, but when they reveal the answer, I was like, oh, it's because they said it this way and not in a way that I understand it. So Duolingo for vocab. What I also, and this is something I've spoken to you about very briefly, is that I'm listening to Vietnamese podcasts as well. And again,
Which is very cool.
a lot of and because in Vietnam, like so written, it's kind of all the same, but for kind of the formal stuff, so for like I know like actors, newsreaders, it's all in the northern accent as well.
Wow.
So a lot of media content, at least I found, is that it's very northern bias. So it's taken a lot of time to actually find content that's in a southern accent that I can actually kind of take in.
I'd imagine Arabic would be the same.
Yeah. So there is like after ages, I found a podcast that was done by someone with a southern accent, but it's about it's like I think it's like a self-help podcast. So like before I did the word for passion. Yeah. That's ingrained in my mind. I know what passion is. Like,
but that's the existential stuff we're talking about. That's great.
Yeah. So and for that, I'm not worrying about trying to remember words and anything. It's just like, it's kind of the thing where we talk about how we don't have the opportunity to kind of have deeper conversations, right? So even though it might just be one way, I'm still kind of just like taking in language without having to worry about kind of repeating.
Are you going to put that in the show notes, the show?
But sure.
Why not?
I mean, why not? If anyone's out there listening to Vietnamese that wants.
And they're looking for something that's in a southern dialect.
Yeah.
Like if it took you a while to find, it might actually be helpful to someone.
For comprehension, and this is something that I found that I've read is useful, is watching sitcoms.
Oh, okay.
So basically, you watch the sitcom, have it dubbed in the language, but for the captions, you don't have it in English. You have it in the target language that you're learning as well.
Oh, so they're speaking English.
No, they're speaking Vietnamese and you're reading Vietnamese.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I think the idea behind it is that you infer from context about what's happening. So even though you might not understand what's kind of going on,
You're watching it play out.
you're watching play out, and then you can kind of put together the pieces. Oh, okay, this is kind of what's happening.
I might be misunderstanding, but do you mean take an English sitcom and do this?
You can do it. You can take an English sitcom if it has a dubbed version of it, or like a sitcom that's in your native language.
It reminds me of when I was in Lebanon last, which was a long time ago. I watched High School Musical exactly the way that you just described. I think it was High School Musical 2.
Yeah.
I watched that just the way that you described, and it was spoken in Arabic, and there was Arabic subtitles, and it helped a lot.
Yeah,
but that was like years and years ago. Okay, cool.
And the last one, I know I said for everybody, it's the fourth one, a bonus one. It's kind of for active learning using vlogs. All right. So find vlog, and the thing is, the reason why vlogs don't work for comprehension is because normally it's just a person
Talking
speaks
to camera.
You're not taking, you don't have any context. But what you do is on YouTube, what you do is in the video itself, you can have the captions in the target language, and what you can do is you can pull up a transcript in English.
Yeah.
Right. So you have both going on at the same
and you
time.
kind of see it.
And then when you see a word that you don't, and this is more so you're looking for kind of key vocab words that you don't get quite yet.
Yeah.
Is like you can pinpoint what it is and memorize. Okay,
This is so cool.
This word is.
How did you come up with this?
So for the first three, for the comprehension was just something I found online. For everything else, it's just kind of what I've been testing about what works. It might not work, but it's what it's.
I mean, you applied the stuff that you know as a teacher, as a teaching artist, and then are learning now as a teacher in uni, and then you're like turning yourself into a student. I think this would actually be really helpful to anyone who's trying to learn a language, not necessarily just Vietnamese.
Yeah,
if they're listening
I think
to
it should
this.
work for most stuff. Yeah.
I mean, it probably gives away the fact that like my approach is a lot worse than what you just described. Have you found that it's helping? Like, how long have you been doing this for?
I'll say 2-3 months. I think because actually this is kind of a cool thing as well. I'm starting to dream in Vietnamese.
Really?
There's some.
So you never used
But
to before?
but in my dreams, no, not before. But in my dreams, I'm just as bad.
Wow. So I sometimes dream in Arabic.
Yeah.
But I'm really good. I wonder what that says about my psyche.
It's good. It's self-confidence.
Yeah, I'm so good at Arabic in my dreams.
Yeah. So there've been times where like if I found that, because with the language learning as well, it's always been on and off.
Yeah.
I found that whenever I do it, but like really focus on it, I do start dreaming in it, which is cool. But I know that it helps.
Did you have the same struggle with the vlogs trying to find it in a southern dialect?
Oh yeah, there's so much content is in the northern dialect.
Why
And because
is that? Because I don't actually know why that's the case with Arabic. So if you don't have an answer for
I don't
me,
know.
that's
I'm not
fine.
sure. I know that again, like with you, like the more formal stuff is in northern dialect, but I have no idea why, in terms of vlogs and stuff, why there's just maybe I just haven't been able to find. And because the funny thing is there are YouTube channels in southern dialect, but they're focused about learning language, like learning specifically Vietnamese dialect.
So if someone's going to come on and like do like a makeup tutorial, they're going to speak in a northern dialect.
Yeah.
Because that's how you present yourself. Do you think the people who can speak the northern dialect, because I'm trying to think about applying this to Arabic, if someone can speak formal Arabic, they can speak conversational Arabic, but it doesn't go the other way. Is it the same for you?
Less. It's more so it's the equivalent of like us speaking English, right, and then putting on an American accent.
The northern dialect becomes the American accent? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, as in, it goes both ways. Like a person that's from the south could pretend to be, that could put on a northern accent, and someone from the north could put on a southern accent. So it's less so, it's not as hard coded as it is like a dialect. Like you will still understand each other, and there are some individual words that are different.
Because I asked the question because in Arabic, I've always had the impression, I think this is correct, that the formal Arabic is the correct Arabic. That is actually the way the language is spoken. And I mean, a really good example of that is that the Quran, which is a sustainer of the Arabic language for now for more than 1400 years, it is written in formal Arabic. So there's the thing that we go back to. And I know I'm conflating culture and religion, but the primary text is written in Arabic. So it ends up being the kind of like codex that you go back to of like, how do you pronounce these words?
Yeah.
And it has the harakat for how to pronounce it. So formal Arabic, if you can do that, you can speak all Arabic.
Yeah.
And then you can go off into, and then there's some different dialects, but it sounds like Vietnamese is not that.
It's not like you know, that I think like the northern dialect is like the kind of root dialect, and everything branches off of that.
I'll do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mine's so much worse compared to yours. I'm doing Duolingo.
Yep.
I'm on like 1,200 and something days.
Nice.
But no, don't say nice, because at a certain point, what ended up happening is I was moving through the units, right? Because it starts off with simple words and then phrases. And then it started getting hard.
Yeah, there's like a certain section where,
Yeah,
right.
I hit a wall with it. There was like a barrier. I don't know what like unit it is, maybe 3 or 4. I don't know how many there are. But I got to a point where I'm like, this is now pushing myself, which is in education, we call it the zone of proximal development. It's good. You have to be there to learn things. Tell that to my brain though, because I got there and I was like, this is hard, but I didn't want to lose my streak.
Yeah.
So what I started to do, and I'm sure other people can relate to this, is I started just doing easier lessons that the easiest ones that I could to still technically have done Duolingo that day, but not have learned anything. And I've been doing that for just hundreds of days now at this point. And I've fallen into the habit of just like reviewing old stuff and not learning anything new.
Have you unlocked all of the units?
No, I don't think you need to. Like, I think you can just go ahead and skip if you want to. I don't know if that's different than before.
I think because like maybe like, because many years ago, you couldn't do like, at least for me doing Vietnamese, you'd have to unlock units kind of one by one to kind of progress through it. So the way I did it all of those years ago was forcing myself to unlock all of the units, even if I have to, you know, be a bit dodgy with it.
Yeah.
And the only reason I did that was so that I could unlock all of the vocabulary.
Oh, see, here's my problem with it, is that I'm like you, I want it to be a video game, right? Which is a lot of the appeal and why I got into it to begin with, is that you kind of do stuff, you get experience. But right now, at any point, I can just go to any of the lessons and just jump there. And I don't know if that's because it's changed since when you did it.
I think it has.
Or because I'm on a turbo version of it, which there's like the premium version of Duolingo, which I don't pay for. I've got a poet friend who does it, which again I won't name, but they said, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I've been on it with them since then.
Nice.
So I don't know if that's the reason why I can jump around, but it's affected me badly.
Yeah.
So there's that. I've got 3. So the second one is I, as much as possible, try to read the Quran.
Yeah.
Because if I want to learn formal Arabic, and that is the kind of key text for all the words that I want to know.
Yep.
And especially because it leads into the thing about me focusing on my religion, is that if I can read the Quran, I can technically read anything, and I can also start learning the names for words that I don't know. And because it's a spiritual text and it's the word of God, it means that you're learning about all facets of life.
Yeah.
So I do that, and I have a Quran that has the English translations word by word, and also look up online because there's multiple different translations.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful. And then my final thing is I've recently enrolled into Islamic course, which is Essentials of Islam, which starts next month. And I'm hoping by doing that, there will be like something related to Arabic in there that can help me focus on it. But other than that, I'm not doing any of the stuff you described.
And come just quickly on Duolingo, I'll show you. Because what I did as well during the holidays was that I did the trial version of the premium.
Oh yeah.
So that I could do this. It's like all gold, baby. So for each one, after you do the lesson, you can do. Oh, because I did already. You can unlock legendary.
I've done that.
Oh, yeah?
For the old ones. But that's the thing. I got to the point where, so I've like maxed out all the earlier ones that are easy, but now I'm like, it's hard, and I don't want to like.
No, so
I know that's the point.
for the last 2 weeks, it was just me forcing myself just to kind of get through it.
Good on you. Okay, you're inspiring me to like try harder with my Duolingo. Maybe the next time we speak, I can have done a few more lessons instead of just repeating the same. Because I'm spending the time doing it anyway. What's the point? Like the streak doesn't mean anything, but you know, it's video game stuff.
And actually, before we move on, one last thing I'll mention as well that might be useful for anyone that is learning Vietnamese is for learning Vietnamese and you want to learn in a southern dialect as well. Specifically, something I noticed what I thought was interesting was with a lot of the vlogs, if the vlog was done by someone who is a refugee or an immigrant, right, that dialect is more likely to be in a southern dialect.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
And there is this really weird, I don't know, not, it's not weird, it's a trend of Vietnamese people vlogging about their life in a specific country. Like there is like a search term for it, where if you type it in, you just find it, and it translates to basically my life in, and then there'll be people from my life in America, my life in Australia.
But they're Southern Vietnamese.
Yeah, and some so if you're looking for that, type into Vietnamese Gup Som and then the country, me, or whatever, it'll come up with just these Vietnamese refugees,
That's such an interesting
or
hack.
immigrants.
Oh my gosh!
Right, who more than likely be speaking a Southern Vietnamese dialect.
What you made me think of is all the stuff that I described doesn't actually help me with one of the main things I wanted to focus on that I said earlier, which is conversational Arabic. Like I'm not going to be able to kind of like see an uncle and talk in Arabic really easily like I have my whole life. Like it doesn't actually address the thing that I want. Yeah. So yeah, it's a journey.
Is there something that, say how we said we'll do 5 things by the end of it, could one of them be creating language for yourself and forcing yourself to...
I think one of them would be, I mean, if anyone watched Pestered, we spoke about this, it would be me creating like an interview with someone and I interview them in Arabic and they respond to me and we just talk in Arabic.
That could be good supplement.
I'm happy to try to do something like that. That sounds cool.
Cool. So should we jump into our segments?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to make this worthwhile for everyone listening, right? To make it embarrassing for both of us. So we've got some segments that we are going to do. The first one is what I'm going to do, at least and you don't have to, if you don't have anything planned, that's all right. Okay. Basically, what I'm going to do is I am going to have a list of Vietnamese words that are basically countries, different countries, and Bilal is going to have to try to guess what country it is. Okay. And some of them, like, I don't know, like, what's the thought process behind it? Some of them are really, like, obvious. Like, you can see, like, what, like, how they can do. Some of them, like, you just have no idea why they, how they came to such a conclusion.
Well, I might give an example while you get set up. Yeah. Because I didn't prepare this, but, like, Arabic is a really interesting example of this, and I'm sure there's reasons why. But there's some countries that in Arabic, they sound exactly the same and some that they sound very different. So like Australia, for example, you'd say Australia. That's how it's written. But then there's ones that are completely different. Like Germany is Almania, which doesn't sound like Germany at all. And I'm sure there's a reason why, but yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about.
All right, so I'm going to go...
And we're doing this for you to practice Vietnamese.
Because,
and for our listeners to do the same.
Because I've got the list up. But unfortunately, the list only has the Vietnamese words and not the English words.
You don't have a cheat sheet?
I don't have a cheat sheet, so I'm going to have to try to remember. I'm picking the ones that I can remember as well. So the first one, Bilal, is I'm going to write it down.
Okay. I'm ready.
Because I feel like if I say it, it's going to be very, very obvious. So I'm going to write it down first to see if you can guess it.
Write neatly.
And then I might have this on screen as well. I'm just making sure. So I'm not writing with the symbols because that just takes way too much time.
So I'm just going to pronounce this the way that I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Thailand.
Ooh, close.
Because it's Dai Long. I would guess Thailand.
It's not Thailand. You can have one more guess if you want.
Dai Long.
I can pronounce it as well if you want.
Do you mind? Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to be pronouncing it right. So go easy on me. Dai Loan. Dai Loan.
Oh, Taiwan.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, cool. That's cool.
It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. I mean, straightforward, but I didn't get it.
Yeah. Let's find another.
It's interesting that the t sounds changing to a d in the way it's written.
Oh, yeah. Because also, it's hard to see. So, with the D's, right,
It's got this.
There's two
line.
types of Ds. There's a D with a thing,
Yeah.
and there's a normal D. The D, like the normal D that you would normally recognize, is pronounced as a Y sound, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So two different. All right. So next up, let's go. Okay, this. I think this one should be pretty straightforward.
I'm ready. I mean, as ready as I can be. This would be really interesting in Arabic. Okay. Okay. Thoniki. Thonikai. Ki?
Key is the correct one.
Thoniki. Can you pronounce it?
Terniki.
Turkey?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
All right. Okay.
See, in Arabic, Turkey is Turki.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Or
Turkey
yeah,
just gets
depends on
the easy pronunciations.
Okay. I mean,
Terniki.
I would not have got that if you didn't say it. Though.
How many more should be there?
Let's do a couple more.
Couple more.
This is fun.
Let's see if I can find.
Because hopefully what's happening is this is coming up on a video version. People can guess with me.
Yeah. Okay, your I guess I think this one will be too easy for you. I think all of the easy ones.
You can give me a hard one. That's fine.
Hold on. Okay, let's.
But it has to like sound at least vaguely similar.
Oh no, I think they're
They're all just.
We've gone through all of those.
Okay. Yeah. Then just do
Let's
whichever
go.
one you want.
Let's go with this. I even add the symbol because it's a simple one. Yeah, you want a pronunciation.
Okay, so it looks like a U with a, in Arabic that would be a fatha on top, so it's harakat. Uk,
Oh, it's pretty close.
uk. Anyone's listening to this, I'm just saying the same syllable again. Alright, you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think you might be pronouncing it, but at least the way I've been raised to say it's oop.
Oh, with a p sound rather than a
I don't know if that's correct or not.
No, I got nothing.
Australia.
Bro, what? Why?
Actually, this is the one.
Alright, give me one more. Give me one more. Why? It just says why. I'm just gonna guess Iceland because I think it's
Oh,
funny.
it's close. So it's pronounced E.
E?
It's Italy.
Italy.
I don't know.
Why did you say close when I said Iceland? Because it's like.
Well, I mean, I was a good guess. I should say not close.
Okay, E.
E.
Italy in Arabic is Italia.
Oh, that just makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder if you, yeah.
So the thing is, I want to know who came up with this. Like, which Vietnamese person decided, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna chuck a Y.
I find that stuff so fascinating when it's like the language predates or the other way around what the word is. So like obviously like Arabic, for example, you have the countries where people would speak Arabic, but they would never encounter like a kangaroo. So we're not going to say the word kangaroo. We would just say however we would pronounce it.
Yeah.
And a really great example of it is, maybe we'll get into it some other time, but like in Arabic, there's no p sound, like p. So we will replace it with a ba, which is a b sound. So Pepsi, for example, and it's even the way it's written on like a Pepsi bottle or can, it says Bipsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then because you already said it before, I didn't put it. So that's Thailand.
Okay. But see, that makes sense.
That makes sense, right? All right. Let's do next up. Is it
Most useful phrases.
useful phrases?
Can I start with this one?
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say about this one is that hopefully I can find the meme and put it in the show notes. But there's this text post of this guy who doesn't speak Arabic but married an Arabic girl. And he's Muslim, his wife is Muslim, and his in-laws are Muslim. And when he visits his father-in-law, he talks about the fact that he can't speak Arabic. His father-in-law only speaks Arabic, but they're both Muslim. So there's phrases he knows because he's Muslim, because he knows how to pray and he knows the Quran. So he doesn't know how to speak conversational Arabic, but he can make something called dua, which is prayers, essentially. And it's like a really simple one that lots of people know is when we say Alhamdulillah, which is like thank God or thanks to God or thanks be to God. And things like when we say Bismillah before we do something or Insha'Allah. And the way he describes it is he goes to his father-in-law's house, so he's like in-laws, and he doesn't speak Arabic, but he makes prayers constantly. Because like he'll sit there and then his father-in-law will like try to say, give me the remote. And then he'll like give it to him, and then he can't say anything, so he just says Alhamdulillah, like thanks to God. And the way he describes it is that his family gatherings are just filled with blessings,
Yeah.
which I really love as a concept. Whereas he can't speak the language, but there's this like codex or code that you can use to still interact with people. And even when I find myself struggling to have a conversation with someone in Arabic, I will lean on religion, because those are the things I know confidently. So my advice to anyone, if you want to know really common phrases in Arabic, is that like learn those. They will get you through so many different places. So the main one is Alhamdulillah, which is just thanks to God, because you can say it anytime. Insha'Allah is really good, because it's like, if God wills it, it's a really good filler in conversation if you don't know what to say. You just like, and if someone asks you a question and you say Insha'Allah. And Alhamdulillah is really good too, because Arabs know this intrinsically. It's how we answer most questions about ourselves. How are you going, Bilal? Alhamdulillah. Because you can't be like, oh, well, you know, I'm struggling with, because if you don't know how to say the language, speak the language, you just say Alhamdulillah, thanks to God. Nice. So my final one, which I say half jokingly, but does actually work, is that you say Anjad.
Anjad.
And I've said this to you before, you pronounce that really well, which just means, really? So if you're listening to someone, especially someone long-winded, and they're talking in Arabic, and you're still learning the language, and you just want them to keep going, you just go, Anjad. And they're like, yeah. And then they'll like explain a little bit more.
I like that.
So that's my advice for most useful phrases.
Excellent. So my useful phrases, these are ones that I've come up for you specifically. Not you specifically.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to have to say them. So I try to figure like in what situations, and maybe check real quick. I'm paranoid that the thing has stopped recording. Has it stopped recording? No space on memory card.
That's okay. So we have some of it?
Yes, wait. We're pausing? Okay. So
you made useful phrases for me.
Useful phrases for you. Also, the video of my camera cut off. So you're watching this whenever I put this back on. Probably if we cut off, it's probably going to be just screenshots of us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Until this comes back up. So next bit is useful phrases for you. So I've come up with 3 situations that you might need to know Vietnamese phrases. One is being Muslim, you can only eat halal food. Right? That's a phrase for that. We're also coming up to...
Oh, these are practical.
Yeah. We're coming up to Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
So just how to say Happy New Year's in Vietnamese.
Beautiful.
And then I don't know why I wrote this. I wrote coconut water.
I do love coconut water.
I guess.
So this is like an example of how to order
a coconut water. So for you, because I don't know if there's a word for halal in Vietnamese, right?
So the word wouldn't just be halal, like, because it's an Arabic word.
Maybe, right? But then like, would your average Vietnamese person know what that is?
Yeah,
no,
fair
right?
enough.
So you would have to say that, you know, I can't eat pork, or I can only eat vegetarian food, right?
Yeah.
So we're
even vegetarian would be helpful.
Helpful. So we'll come up with 2. One is I don't eat pork, and maybe another one is to say I'm a vegetarian, right?
Yeah.
So to say I can't eat pork, you say "Tôi không ăn thịt heo," right? So it's I don't eat and pork essentially. So tôi không ăn thịt heo. Put it all together.
I can't.
And next one is I'm a vegetarian person.
Yeah.
So that is...
I think you added the word person in there. Like not a vegetarian. I'm still a person. Even
I guess I think it's weird Vietnamese cross.
And in case anyone's listening
well.
to this and isn't sure, if you're eating halal and you can't have halal meat, you would just order vegetarian because there's no meat in it.
There we go. So I'm a vegetarian is Tôi là người. Close enough. Ăn chay. Tôi là người ăn chay.
No. It's hard.
It's hard, right?
What's the word I didn't pronounce right? Could you say it to me again?
Người.
Oh,
sorry, it's just người.
Người.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's kind of like your surname.
Person.
Yeah,
it's not
N
sound.
Sound. Oh, interesting. I mean, the good thing is I can listen back to this and practice.
Yeah, there we go. Next up, for Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Very easy. Chúc mừng năm mới.
Say it again.
Chúc mừng năm mới. Mới. It's like new. Mới. Not mới.
Is it? Can you show it to me? Really? Oh no, don't worry. Keep going.
So, as in, can you do ơi? Mới. Yeah. Chúc mừng năm mới.
Chúc mừng. What's the third syllable?
Năm
mới.
Yeah.
Chúc mừng năm mới.
Very good.
Okay.
And last one,
Sorry, I'm butchering a very beautiful language, everyone. Thank you for being patient.
last one is to ask for a glass of coconut water.
Yeah, hit me. This is real important.
Sinjo
Sinjo,
mobli
Mobley,
nukio.
Nokia.
Sinjo mobli nukio.
Well, as soon as you go fast, it's hard. Is it, like, out of curiosity, is it direct translation? Or did you have to, like, is it just, can I please have
It's
coconut
more or
water?
less. More or less.
For all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Some because for the simple stuff, yes, but for the harder ones, because in Vietnamese, you talk about the object first and then you describe it. So, like if you said, "I want that green cup," in Vietnamese it will be, "I want that cup green."
Oh yeah, like Arabic kind of changes the tense as well. The reason I ask is, like, an example I wanted to speak about is like the phrase pet peeve in English. That phrase doesn't exist in Arabic. The closest thing is you probably would say like shay yazijni, which is like a thing that annoys me. But it's not the phrase pet peeve because that phrasing is an English one. So we have to kind of, explain it differently.
And something I've just found right now as well is that my pronunciation is way off, and I have to teach someone as well. I just realized when I'm saying it slow, it's like, wait, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, it's come up a lot, to bring it back to what we were talking about before on Waffle Wednesdays, even though it's Thursday, is with drawing, for example. And actually, when you're learning anything, the best way to solidify knowledge is to teach it to someone else. So that's advice to anyone that's listening. And I kind of think about the same thing anytime I've tried to teach myself something. I try to, once I have a grasp on it as a teacher, teach it to someone else, because it allows me to kind of practice the fundamentals a bit more. Did we have another section for languages?
I think that's it. Shall we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. We're going to end this episode on a segment which is us describing what's been badgering us lately. This show exists because we have random thoughts in our minds that we just don't have anywhere to put them except our friendship.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about what might be on our mind. And I have a Google document that's quite scary, which is every time I have a random thing that I can't quite describe why I've become obsessed with it, either a thought, an idea, a meme, a video, a story, a piece of art I want to make, I add it to this document. And very slowly I want to make my way through it and share it out into the world, because maybe it'll turn into something. So this is what is badgering us right now. Yeah. Do you want to start?
You can go first.
All right. Mine is straight from the brain dump document. And I've thought about this for years. And it's one of those things where I'm scared to say it, because what if it's the best idea ever and then someone's going to like take it and make lots of money off it. But I don't care, because I actually want it to exist so badly that even if someone makes it and makes it well, I just feel like it's easy money. This is the thing, right? Yeah. All I want is Pokemon Go, but for real birds. That's it. I just want an app, right? Because there are bird watching apps.
Yeah.
And there are apps where you take photos of plants, for example, and it tells you what it is.
Yeah.
All I want is a catch them all for like actual animals out in the world. And even if it's just birds, that's fine. Yeah. Because think about the overlap between bird watchers and people who like Pokemon. Surely there's some, right? And you don't even have to like bird watching. Pokemon Go, again, not sponsored, I wish, they have so much money, is you just go around and you like are on an actual real map of the world, and then you encounter fake Pokemon that whatever algorithm or coding just says that there's one there. But imagine, if you will, for a moment, that you're out at a park and a magpie lands next to you. You open your app, you open the camera, you look at the magpie, you throw a Pokeball, you call it something else, whatever it is, and with the same mechanics as Pokemon Go, you catch that magpie, and now it's your magpie. And wherever you want, you can just kind of put the magpie out and you kind of hang about, and it's like this animated little magpie. And there is a list of all the birds, and you're just trying to catch all of them. And all you've got to do is you've got to see the birds out in the wild, you've got to show the camera, and somehow it knows that you can't just show it a picture. Like the bird actually has to be there. And then you just catch all the birds.
I love it. Any programmers out there?
Just make it happen.
Get on it.
The idea is free for you if you make it free for other people. I don't know how like legally binding that is. That's the thing that's just been on my mind so much, is I just want real life Pokemon Go.
Nice.
Okay.
So the other thing is, I had something that was annoying me that was on my mind as we were doing the podcast. Like, okay, remember this. I gotta save it.
It's gone, isn't it?
It's gone.
Is it? Well, you didn't write it anyway?
No, I was too.
This is why
I was too enthralled by you. You know.
So's your face.
But something that's been badgering me, something that's been on my mind.
Do you want to go into the document? Did you add anything to it?
No, nothing at all.
It's just my nonsense, that entire document? Oh, that's scary.
We can end it there.
Yeah.
We can start off next episode if I remember.
It's a cliffhanger. This is evidence of like sometimes how empty your brain is.
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
love it. It's great. Well, thank you for listening to episode 2 of season 2 of the Badgered podcast.
We're back.
We're back. We are so back. If you like this episode, please, rate it 5 stars. Leave a comment on Spotify, on wherever you listen to this. Like the video on YouTube. And thanks for joining us.
See ya.
Love you, Kev.
Bye.